Yeah, if we don't mind, let's start over. Just let's put on the show.
Okay.
Call this meeting to order again. This is in line with the motion that was passed by a majority of the the LP affiliates in Delaware's state board. I'm calling this meeting to order. The chair is absent, the vice chair is absent, the secretary role is vacant, so that leaves anybody on the board can call the meeting to order. First order of business, we should elect the chair pro tem.
I nominate Will McVeigh as chair pro tem.
I have a nomination for myself, which I appreciate. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further nominations? I got to leave time for debate and discussion too, because otherwise the meeting's not valid according to the Judicial Committee. Huh? Anyway, sorry, we're going to stand at rest for a second.
A little bit.
I think we're going to need a little bit. Come back and all right. Anyway, so that was the server here had a question for us. So there are no additional nominations. I will now call the roll, starting with statewide officers and moving on down. Bill Hines, absent. Amy Lepore, absent. Secretary position vacant. Mary Pat McVeigh.
Aye.
Newcastle, Dave Casey, absent.
Shocker.
Dylan Griffith, absent.
Shocker.
Will McVeigh, I vote aye. And then Brandy Kirchval. And then Jimmy Brittingham.
Aye.
And then Jody Pasquale.
Aye.
All right, so thank you. I appreciate your confidence and faith in me. As many of you, I'm sure, are aware, the Judicial Committee has made a ruling that reinstates the LP's Delaware affiliate as it stood on October 1st, with the duly elected board as it stood on October 1st under the properly adopted rules on October 1st. So you may notice that I have prepared a resolution that we are able to pass in response to this. I will read it, or someone can move it first, whatever prefer to move it, and we can, I should read it first. I'll read it first, and if somebody wants to move to adopt it, we can go from there. Whereas on February 13th, the Judicial Committee of the National Libertarian Party announced in an email that they did not recognize the validity of the LPD state board meetings taking place on October 1st, 2021 and November 20th, 21, or the actions taken at those meetings. Whereas the Libertarian Party of Delaware does not acknowledge the authority of the National Libertarian Party of any of its constituent committees to evaluate the validity of LPD state board meetings or actions. Whereas the reasons for rejecting the validity of the October 1st and November 20th meetings of the LPD State Board rest on pedantic nitpicking about procedural requirements rather than the authority of the LPD State Board to take the actions at those meetings. Whereas in particular, the November 20th meeting of the LPD State Board is held to be invalid because rather than explicitly conducting a roll call vote, the chair pro tem recognized that there was no opposition present and reported the affirmative votes individually of a majority of LPD State Board members as it was constituted on September 30th. Whereas it is a simple enough matter to appease the pedantic complaints raised by the JC to rationalize exceeding their authority and purporting to invalidate the autonomous actions of the LPD. Whereas the third motion adopted by the LP Judicial Committee purported to reinstate a Delaware affiliate of the LP with officers and board members as they existed of said affiliate on October 1st, 2021, which means Mr. Hines, Dr. Lepore, Ms. McVeigh, Mr. Casey, Mr. Griffith, Mr. McVeigh, Ms. Kirchval, Mr. Brittingham, and Mr. DePasquale are all members of the State Board of the Delaware affiliate as recognized by the JC. Whereas a simple majority of the duly elected members of the Delaware Affiliate State Board at a regular or ad hoc meeting with sufficient quorum had the undisputed authority to amend the bylaws of the LPD as they stood on September 30th, 2021, following proper notice of proposed changes at least 30 days prior. Whereas proper notice is defined to include a post in the established Delaware Affiliate Facebook group created in 2011 and consistently acknowledged and utilized for that purpose. Whereas notice of a proposed change to the bylaws enabling only a majority of the Delaware Affiliate State Board to remove other state board members by motion without establishing cause was posted on October 21st, 2021 to the LPD Facebook group as required. Whereas a unanimous vote of the LPD State Board, including a majority of those Delaware Affiliate Board members duly elected at the June 2021 Delaware Affiliate Convention, taking place on the established and commonly used Discord server in accordance with the established and commonly accepted procedure, called for the 2022 Q1 Delaware Affiliate State Board meeting to be held at this time and place, February 19th, 2022 at 1 p.m. at the McGlynn's Pub in Dover, Delaware. Whereas the Delaware Affiliate Articles of Association as they existed on September 30th, 2021, obligated the Delaware Affiliate State Board to hold quarterly meetings, but the time and place of such quarterly meetings was not specified there or in any other location or standing rule. Whereas the Delaware Affiliate adopts the most recent edition of RONR to serve as its parliamentary authority, except where superseded by the Delaware Affiliate's bylaws, and as of September 30th, its Articles of Association. Whereas Robert's Rules of New Order Section 9.2 allows for an organization using RONR to follow the practice of setting the time, date, and/or location of regular meetings by motion, provided that notice is given to all members in advance. Whereas the results of the motion to schedule the 2022 Q1 Delaware Affiliate State Board meeting were sent out via email to the public email list on January 27, 2022, 25 days in advance of the scheduled meeting, and through a post to the established Delaware Affiliate Facebook page and group on February 17, 2022, more than 48 hours prior to the scheduled meeting, and directly via email to the State Board members of the Delaware Affiliate the day prior to the meeting. Whereas no longer a duration is specified or required for notice of regular meetings under the LPD bylaws or as they existed on September 30th, 2021, Articles of Association or under RONR. Whereas under no conceivable interpretation of parliamentary law or the bylaws or Articles of Association of the LPD could the notice or conduct of the 2022 Q1 LPD State Board meeting or of the proposed bylaws amendment be considered defective. Whereas it is explicitly delegated in the Articles of Association of the Delaware Affiliate that the entire State Board has the duty to coordinate with the National Party, not to the State Chair alone. Now therefore be it resolved that the LNC Chair should be informed of the existence of the Delaware Affiliate Board in accordance with the ruling of the LP's Judicial Committee and the request of the LNC Chair in her email dated February 18th. Now therefore be it resolved that the majority of duly elected members of the LPD from the LPD duly elected members of the LPD from the LPD do hereby once again adopt an amendment to the bylaws of the LPD to facilitate the removal of dilatory, hostile, counterproductive, and unlibertarian members from their state board. Now therefore be resolved that said members Bill Hines, Amy Lepore, and Dave Casey are hereby removed from their positions on the state board. So that's the resolution. If someone would like to move an adoption of that,
We need to read this.
that's next. That's a separate thing.
Move to adopt.
There is a motion to adopt that resolution. Is there a second? I have a second. Is there any
You wanna
discussion?
name the people for the-
The motion was made by Joe DiPasquale. The second was made by Brandy and Mary Pat and Jimmy all at the same time. Any discussion? I have to make sure I leave time for discussion. That's important. Seeing no discussion, I will begin calling the roll. Bill Hines, absent. Amy Lepore, absent. Secretary position is vacant. Mary Pat McVeigh.
Aye.
Mary Pat McVeigh votes aye. Dave Casey, absent. Dylan Griffith, absent. I vote aye. Brandy Kirchhoff. Brandy votes aye. Jimmy Brittingham.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. Joe DiPasquale.
Aye.
Joe votes aye. So the amendment to the bylaws is now accepted. The removal of the 3 state board members is now effected. There is a further resolution that I will read if someone would like to move to introduce it after I'm done. Now therefore be it further resolved, now that the above named disruptive individuals have been once again removed from the Delaware Affiliate State Board, the remaining members of the Affiliate State Board have the numbers and authority under the Affiliate's Articles of Association and bylaws as they existed on September 30th, 2021, October 1st, 2021, October 30th, 2021, October 31st, 2021, November 19th, 2021, November 20th, 2021, November 21st, 2021, December 5th, 2021, and February 19th, 2022, to exercise our autonomy under national LP bylaws in accordance with the laws of the state of Delaware and the United States and our bylaws, and in accordance with the statement of principles of the Libertarian Party and philosophy to do, repeat, enact, not ratify, all of the things we have done since October 1st, 2021 to protect our party, advance the libertarian cause, and set an example for how faithful libertarians across the country can stand against disruptive interlopers publicly engaged in a conspiracy to take over and subvert the Libertarian Party. Would anybody like to move to adopt that?
I move we adopt that.
There's a motion to adopt from Mary Pat. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Jimmy Brittingham. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we begin calling the roll. Dylan Griffith, absent. He hasn't been removed yet, remember. This is part of the... Anyway. Mary Pat McVeigh.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. I vote aye. Brandy Kirchhoff. Brandy votes aye. Jimmy.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. Joe.
Aye.
Joe votes aye. That is once again unanimous of members in attendance, and we are now back where we started, and we are now lined up between the LP's Delaware affiliate and the Libertarian Party of Delaware. I would now like a motion to adjourn the LP Delaware affiliate state board meeting so we can call the state board meeting of the Libertarian Party of Delaware to order. There's a motion to adjourn from Joe DiPasquale. Is there a second? There's a second from Mary Pat McVeigh. I will call the roll. Dylan's no longer on the state board. It's moving right along. Mary Pat McVeigh.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. I vote aye. Brandy Kirchhoff. Brandy votes aye. Erica Nelson.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Wendy.
Aye.
Wendy votes aye. Jimmy.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. Joe. Joe votes aye. That's everybody voting aye, and we're caught up again. So they had because we redid all the things. And anyway, so we are now adjourned. Time is 1:16, and I now call to order the state board meeting of the Libertarian Party of Delaware, which is not exactly the same thing
There's the LP.
before as the LP affiliate of Delaware, but it is now. Okay, so first item on that agenda is to adopt the agenda, which at this point is now items 6 through 15 on the front page of your information packets. If someone would like to make a motion to adopt that agenda or any other agenda if they wish.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
There's a motion to adopt the agenda from Mary Pat McVeigh. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Jimmy Brittingham. Any discussion, potential amendments?
Nope.
Hearing no amendments or discussion. All of those in no roll call. It's important. Vice Chair Jimmy Brittingham.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. Treasurer Mary Pat McVeigh.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. Newcastle Chair John Mashurik.
Aye.
John Mashurik votes aye. Sorry, I didn't call you earlier for the adjournment. I should have done that. My mistake.
He wasn't part of that board.
He was once we caught up for the adjournment itself. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle representative.
Aye.
Nicole votes aye. Erica Nelson.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Brandy Kirchhoff. Brandy votes aye. Wendy Jones.
Aye.
Wendy votes aye. Jody Pasquale. Jody Pasquale votes aye. So that is unanimous adoption of the agenda. Next item is the approval of the 2021 Q4 minutes. Even though that meeting was held to be invalid, we still have minutes for it. So I actually took those myself as the Secretary Pro Tem. I can read through those, or someone can make a motion to waive the reading and adopt the minutes as presented.
I make a motion that we waive the reading and adopt the minutes.
There is a motion to waive the reading and adopt the minutes as presented from Mary Pat McVeigh. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Brandy, Erica, and John all at the same time. Is there any discussion on that motion? Any amendments to that motion? Hearing no discussion or amendments, I will call the roll. Vice Chair Jimmy Brittingham.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. Treasurer Mary Pat McVeigh.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. Newcastle County Representative John Mashurik.
Aye.
John Mashurik votes aye. Newcastle Representative Nicole Shaw.
Aye.
Nicole Shaw votes aye. Kent Representative Erica Nelson.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Kent Representative Brandy Kirchhoff. Brandy votes aye. Sussex Representative Wendy Jones.
Aye.
Wendy votes aye. Sussex Representative Joe DiPasquale.
Aye.
Joe votes aye. So that passes. The minutes are adopted as presented, and we are waiving the reading. Next item of business on the agenda is to nominate and confirm an LPD secretary. According to the bylaws of the Libertarian Party of Delaware and the LP Delaware affiliate, a secretary is replaced when there's a vacancy by a nomination being made by the chair and confirmation being made by the state board. I nominate David Rogers to begin to serve as the LPD secretary, to become the LPD secretary. So that starts that motion off automatically. Any discussion? We can do discussion on that. I do not need a second because it's a nomination that it's specifically in the bylaws that the chair makes a nomination and the state board confirms. So we can have discussion, but then the state board will vote on a confirmation. Wendy.
I would like, because I don't know, David, do you have anything to say regarding this position and application or anything like that? Any position?
No, I mean, pretty straightforward, right down the path of the meeting. The next meeting.
Good enough to me.
By way of explaining my nomination and to contribute somewhat to the discussion, I had a conversation with Dave a few weeks ago, and asked him what he thought of the current drama going on in the LPD, and he said to me something that honestly touches me a little bit, and I feel flattered by it. That everything I say he agrees with, and I think that's awesome. I hope that there's at least some areas we disagree on. Maybe we just haven't found them yet, but that was the conversation that we had, and he supports what we're trying to do here in Delaware. If anybody else has any other questions for him, that's all I want to say on my nomination. Yeah, really, man.
No, he's one of the few libertarians that it's like, wow, I agree with him on everything. Because usually I disagree with somebody on something. Yeah, of course. On that.
You mean you don't agree with me on everything, Joe?
I think
Like
I
what?
said at the Sussex meeting the other night that I don't listen to you.
Fair enough.
He makes
I guess
don't answer to you.
you can't agree or disagree with me if you're not even listening.
Yeah, exactly.
I
No, of
will
course
say
I do
I
that.
do disagree with you on stuff, but I think that Dave Rogers would be a great choice.
Thank you, John. I don't know if anybody heard that. John Mashurik said I do disagree with you on stuff, Will, but I still think that Dave Rogers would be a great choice. Any further discussion? Hearing no additional discussion, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair. Aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
And since I forgot to call my own name on all of these other votes that we've done so far, I vote aye on all of them as well. Will McVeigh, Chair, I vote aye. So congratulations, Dave. If you want to start taking minutes now, you're more than welcome to. We can compare notes, but we were also recording this, just so you know. It's being broadcast on Discord, so we can kind of go back and make sure that everything's all set and make sure that that gets confirmed at the Q2 State Board meeting that will be scheduled at a later time and date. Next item of business is to nominate a Financial Oversight Committee member. I will let the members of the State Board know that I spoke with Steve Newton, and he told me that if I'm willing to have a heart attack for this party, then he can serve on the Financial Oversight Committee. So if someone would like to make a motion nominating Steve Newton, they can do that, or anybody else.
I make a motion, we nominate Steve Newton on the Financial Oversight Committee, joining Joe DePasquale, myself. Well, they're oversighting me.
Well, you're on it ex officio.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a motion to nominate Steve Newton for the Financial Oversight Committee.
Point of information. Were you really willing to have that heart attack, or did it?
I don't know about willing, but it happened one way or the other.
Yeah, I never heard of a voluntary heart attack
Is it
before.
a willing heart attack? It just kind of happened in the middle of everything.
I'd say he certainly earned it.
In any case, we've got a motion to nominate Steve Newton for the Financial Oversight Committee. Is there a second? Joe DePasquale and John Mashurik both seconded that at the same time. Mary Pat made the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
And I, as Chair, also vote aye. So,
Well, you're the secretary.
oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I did. Dave Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
Dave Rogers votes aye. Thank you, Mr. DePasquale, Sussex Representative. Next item of business is the rank the vote resolution. I'm not going to say that Dale has endorsed this, but we did work together a little bit on it when I started it. With the body's indulgence, I will read it now. No objections. The Libertarian Party of Delaware supports the efforts of Rank the Vote Delaware to advance ranked choice voting in the state of Delaware. Their primary focus at this time is to educate the public on the benefits of ranked choice voting before formulating a plan for implementing ranked choice voting in Delaware's school board, municipal, and partisan general elections. Most elections in the United States operate on a first-past-the-post plurality vote, where the candidate given ballot access to receive the most votes wins the election. Duverger's law is a theory in political science that such election structures are naturally favorable to the emergence of a two-party system. As libertarians, the largest third party in the country, we are obviously not positively predisposed towards practices that establish and reinforce a two-party system. The advantages of ranked choice voting, however, go well beyond the benefits that would accrue to parties outside the dominant Democrats and Republicans. There are numerous advantages for the public at large. In Delaware, state board and municipal elections outside of Wilmington, school board and municipal elections outside of Wilmington are not partisan elections. Primary elections for determining the nominees in the Democratic and Republican parties do not give any candidate a partisan advantage. With first-past-the-post election systems, there are strong incentives for interest within these parties and communities to form imperfect coalitions, with any potential candidates outside those coalitions being relegated into the position of spoilers or wasted votes for candidates who can't win. votes that should go to the major coalition candidates instead. In effect, alternative candidates outside these coalitions are discouraged from running, and the voters who would support them are disenfranchised. This structure also creates a lesser of two evils incentive, where a candidate doesn't need to be good, they just have to make sure the other candidate looks worse. By allowing for ranked choice voting, candidates have an incentive to form alliances rather than tear each other down, so their voters' first and second choices create a disincentive towards dirty campaign tactics. Ranked choice voting gives candidates with less support the opportunity to present their issues to the public without being derided for wasting the voters' time with spoilers and quixotic campaigns. Ranked choice voting ensures that the winning candidate ultimately has support from a majority of the population rather than just a plurality with more than half the voters preferring someone else. Please visit rankthevotedelaware.org for more information and join us in supporting this effort. Anyone like to make a
I
motion?
make a motion, we accept this resolution.
There's a motion to accept the resolution from Mary Pat McVeigh. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Erica Nelson. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. And Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative. And I, Chair, vote aye. Next item of business is a resolution in support of HB 305, cannabis legalization. This is nearly identical to the resolution that was passed by the Sussex County Libertarian Party of Delaware last week, or earlier this week on Monday. I did add some language to the very last part of it about encouraging the Delaware House of Representatives to prioritize moving it up for the full House, and so I'll read the whole thing just so that everybody's on the same page. Whereas cannabis prohibition is a failed, costly policy that diverts law enforcement resources away from serious crime and puts an unnecessary strain on our criminal justice system. Whereas Delaware ranks 15th highest in the nation for racial disparities in cannabis arrest. Whereas cannabis possession court filings are at an all-time high, 48.6% of all drug offenses. Whereas cannabis legalization creates small business opportunities and thousands of well-paying jobs. Whereas cannabis legalization benefits other industries such as real estate, construction, electrical, HVAC, accounting, agricultural, legal, security, tech, retail, and manufacturing. Whereas cannabis legalization generates economic and agricultural development, creating millions of dollars in revenue, and this is the part that's different from the Sussex resolution that was passed. Therefore, be it resolved that the Libertarian Party of Delaware enthusiastically supports HB 305, expresses its gratitude and the gratitude of its members to the representatives of the Health and Human Development and Appropriations Committees who voted in support of releasing HB 305, and encourages the Delaware House of Representatives to prioritize moving HB 305 up for a vote of the full House. We also encourage the Delaware Senate and Governor Carney to continue progress on this important legislation and get it signed into law as quickly as possible. And you'll notice that the Libertarian Party of Delaware logo at the top there has a little cannabis leaf that's been added to it for this specific area of action. You can make a motion to that effect in the other business section of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt this resolution? There is a motion from... I'm sorry, what was that, John?
I was going to make the motion, but it sounds like it's already done.
I'll go ahead and give you credit for it because it was about the same time. So John Mashurik made the motion. Is there a second? Joe DePasquale seconds the motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair. Jimmy Brittingham votes aye. David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
David Rogers votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
John Mashurik votes aye. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Nicole Shaw votes aye. Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative. Brandy votes aye. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. Wendy votes aye. Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
Joe votes aye. As the chair, Will McVeigh, I also vote aye. The motion is unanimous. The resolution is adopted. Next item of business is a convention update. So I have been authorized by the State Board of the Libertarian Party of Delaware to line up convention speakers for our convention, which is taking place, for those of you on the internet, on March 12th at the Kent County Theater Guild in Dover at 12 p.m. we're starting with lunch. So the speakers that I have been in contact with and have confirmed their interest in speaking to us are Chase Oliver, who is a Libertarian candidate for the U.S. Senate in Georgia. He wants to talk to us about his campaign and ask us for his support. And
Is he going to be there in person?
he's coming remotely. He's going to be calling in remotely, joining the Discord. Tony DeRazio, who is a candidate for LNC chair. Steve Sheets, who is his official title at the moment is actually most recent chair of the LPPA. That's the official title that they have as part of preserving their institutional memory. Kevin Gowan, who is the former now executive director of the LPPA and current chair of the Libertarian Defense Fund. Vern Proctor, who is a town council person in Bethel, Delaware. Heather Pope, I think that her organization is called Compassion something or other. I forget exactly what it is, but it's basically about right to die healthcare options in Delaware and the bill that they're trying to move through the Delaware General Assembly to promote that. Rachel Gregory, who is the legislative director of the Working Families Party. Mitch Denham, who is the president, I think his title is, of Delaware Gun Rights. Adam Windett, who is also the president, I think the title is, I may be wrong on that, of Delaware Cannabis Action Network? Advocacy Network. Delaware Cannabis Advocacy Network. By the way, Adam Windett in particular and Vern Proctor in particular were both invited to our convention last year, but due to delays caused by certain individuals, were not able to actually present what they had prepared. In any case, those are the speakers that I've lined up. I've also written up a draft agenda, and on the first page there, the agenda page, you can see the times that I've slotted. Basically, the first few people who are talking about Libertarian Party stuff in particular have 10 minutes on their agenda with a 5-minute break in between. And then when we get into locals who are talking about local issues, I gave them 15 minutes, and then I gave myself 10 minutes just to kind of make an introduction and kind of talk about what's been going on over the last year in the LPD. Kind of taking my prerogative as chair there to talk about things that are happening with a 10-minute
Hey,
break.
Will?
Then yes, Nicole.
Can you move the screen up on the computer?
Yes, I can. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
So speakers will go from 1 o'clock till about 4 o'clock. Then we will call the convention itself to order and do credentialing. Give it 10 minutes to get credentialing done. Then start on adopting the agenda. Give it 5 minutes for any amendments to the agenda from the floor. And then do minutes from last year. Then do nominations for statewide office. So far, as I'm aware, the candidate we have willing to run for statewide office is Cody McNutt to run for U.S. House. Following that, we'll do nominations for delegates. And since the LP's Delaware affiliate and the Libertarian Party of Delaware have now aligned themselves, we should theoretically be able to seat delegates in Reno, and then we'll adjourn at 5. So that's the speaker list and tentative schedule and the draft agenda. So if anybody would like to move to adopt that, now would be the time. Sorry?
Run for the AG.
Oh, that's right. You're running. Okay, so Dave Rogers is also running for. I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Dave Rogers has also volunteered to run for AG. Either way, I think 20 minutes should be enough time to get those 2 nominations pushed
So
through.
we will have 2 statewide
2 statewide,
candidates.
and the way things are tentatively likely to go now, we still don't have actually officially a Sussex candidate for sheriff, but I'm told Roger Stemler is interested. We also have John Mashurik running for sheriff in Newcastle. I'm running for sheriff in Kent. So we should have, if all that goes through, 3 candidates under the Libertarian banner for every single ballot, plus the additional ones for Joe DiPasquale running in RD41 and Reese Smith running in RD13, I believe it is. In any case, that's the schedule as it's proposed and offered to the state board for final approval, and the draft agenda, which is one of the duties of the state board to come up with for the convention. So if anybody would like to make a motion to adopt that as presented,
I will make a motion to adopt that as presented.
there's a motion to adopt that as presented from Mary Pat McVeigh. Is there a second? There's a second from both Joe and Wendy. Any discussion on that, amendments on that, subsidiary motions in general on that?
Part of your 10 minutes when you see me get carpet in, but that's kind of cool.
I mean, I can probably wait to make that happen. It depends on how much I really have to say. Thank you for your question.
Yes.
The question, by the way, if anybody didn't hear on the video, is will I be seeing Baby Shark again? And the answer was maybe. Any other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
John Mashurek, Newcastle Representative. John?
Wait up, John.
John Mashurek, Newcastle Representative.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm hoping that it's remuted. Anyway, aye.
Aye, thank you. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative. Jimmy Brittingham's the Vice Chair. We did that one already. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. And Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
And Will McVeigh, Chair. I vote aye. Moving on to the next item, that motion carries. We are looking at bylaws amendments. So at the Q4 meeting in 2021, last year, we approved 2 items to be incorporated into the bylaws. The first one of those was for the creation of a financial oversight committee. As it stands right now, that's just basically a standing rule of the LPD rather than an official part of the bylaws. Excuse me. And like I said, that's for the, I actually have these out of order in the information packet here. The Financial Oversight Committee comes after the policy manual, but that's neither here nor there. In either case, the way the bylaws are currently written out, when we create an ad hoc committee or a temporary standing committee, they can only exist for 2 years unless there's an amendment to the bylaws. So in order to maintain the existence of the Financial Oversight Committee as a permanent standing committee rather than a temporary one, we have to incorporate an amendment to the bylaws, and that is in your information packet as it was adopted as a report last time during Q4 2022. I will go ahead and read that just for everyone's edification because the text is kind of small if anyone's having trouble with that. The Libertarian Party of Delaware, LPD, shall maintain a Financial Oversight Committee, FOC, consisting of 3 members of the LPD. The elected treasurer of the LPD shall serve as the chair of the FOC ex officio. 2 additional members shall be added or removed by a majority vote of the state board of the LPD. The treasurer shall provide copies of all bank statements for all accounts holding LPD funds and an accounting of any other funds held on behalf of the LPD for which statements are not provided on a monthly basis. The treasurer shall also provide the FOC with copies of all campaign finance reports delivered to the Delaware Commissioner of Elections, COE, within 1 week of their due date. Any member of the FOC shall make a report to at least the chair of the LPD and, if possible, the secretary and other members of the LPD State Board immediately in the event any discrepancies are discovered between the authorized expenditures of the LPD and the transactions accounted for by the treasurer. If there is any discontinuity between the statements and accounting of other funds provided to the treasurer, or if any campaign finance reports are not accurately delivered to the COE. Upon receipt of any such reports, the State Board shall begin its own investigation in cooperation with the Financial Oversight Committee and within 30 days consider a motion to determine whether or not the treasurer has acted properly or should be removed from the position. And then upon adoption, this motion shall be posted as required to serve as a notification report to amend the LPD's governing documents, creating a new Article 7, standing committees, and adding the text above as Section 1. So that would be the amendment. We would create a new article in the LPD bylaws and renumber the others, creating Section 1 for the Financial Oversight Committee. And as a reminder, we just now added Steve Newton to the Financial Oversight Committee, and previously at the Q4 meeting, we added Joe DePasquale to the Financial Oversight Committee when we created it as a temporary standing committee, which this amendment would create as a permanent standing committee. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, we adopt this as a permanent committee.
All right, we've got a motion from the treasurer, Mary Pat McVeigh, to adopt this as a permanent amendment to the bylaws and create this as a permanent committee. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Jimmy Brittingham. I will remind everyone that this vote, as it is a amendment to the bylaws, requires a 2/3 vote. Any other discussion, questions, etc.? Hearing no questions or discussion, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative. We're not hearing you, John. Okay, we heard you that time. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Brandy Kirchwall, Kent Representative. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
And Will McVeigh, Chair. I vote aye. That motion carries again unanimously. Next item on the agenda is for the policy manual. This is one page back because of the order they got posted on the website. This is about officially recognizing the LPD policy manual as part of the bylaws. This was created as a standing rule last time during Q4 of 2021. It reads, the chair, secretary, and IT director of the LPD shall coordinate as needed to maintain an LPD policy manual to retain any motions passed affecting the operations of the LPD. This policy manual shall be accessible to the public and linked from the LPD website to ensure transparency and accountability. Motions included in the policy manual shall be considered binding on all LPD officers, board members, staff, and volunteers, as well as those of its county affiliates when designated as such and passed with the required 2/3 majority restricting state board oversight of county affiliates. Once adopted by a majority vote, motions added to the policy manual shall be considered special rules of order for the state board of the LPD and shall require a 2/3 majority vote to amend or repeal. Any topics not covered by the policy manual shall be governed by the governing documents of the LPD, and any previous policies governing the LPD shall be vacated within 90 days of adopting this motion unless they are explicitly affirmed as amendments to the policy manual. This initial motion shall be included in the policy manual and shall appear at the top of any listing of adopted policies. Additional policies shall be organized by the chair, secretary, and IT director, subject to oversight by the state board. A majority vote shall be sufficient to reorganize policies when necessary without otherwise editing or removing them from the policy manual. Upon adoption of this motion, it shall be published as required to serve as a notification report to amend the LPD's governing documents as an addition to Article 6, Duties of the State Board, adding Section 12. Is there a motion to adopt this as a bylaw amendment?
I'll make the motion to adopt this as a bylaw.
Motion from Erica Nelson. Is there a second? Second from Mary Pat McVeigh. Is there any discussion, questions, amendments?
The question,
Joe.
can you possibly give an example of any topics not covered by the policy manual shall be governed by the governing documents of the LPD, and any previous policies governing the LPD shall be vacated within 90 days?
So, for example, it's currently policy that the Libertarian Party's Delaware affiliate and the LPD both use lpdelaware.org as their domain for the website and for email. That's established policy, but it's not in a policy manual. So, based on the motion we passed on 11/20, after 90 days, that policy is vacated and that's no longer in force unless it's explicitly included in the policy manual. So there's no confusion about what happened previously, like what motions were passed by previous state boards to establish some kind of policy about something. But if it's not in the policy manual, it doesn't matter anymore.
Okay.
If it's in the policy manual, it's binding. If it's not in the policy manual and it happened more than 90 days previously, it's void.
Okay, I was just looking for an example. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion, comments, abusive language for the chair? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham.
Aye.
By the way, this requires a 2/3 vote as it is an amendment to the bylaws. Jimmy Brittingham votes aye. David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
David Rogers votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
John Mashurik votes aye. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Nicole Shaw votes aye. Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Erica Nelson votes aye. Brandy Kirchwall, Kent Representative. Brandy Kirchwall votes aye. Wendy Jones, Sussex representative.
Aye.
Wendy votes aye. Joe DePasquale, Sussex representative.
Aye.
Joe votes aye. The motion is adopted. Will McVeigh, chair. I also vote aye. It is adopted as an amendment to the bylaws. Next item is the membership approval waiver. This was reported favorably by the bylaws committee on December 13th, meaning the 30 days required has expired. The amendment in particular would add a section to Article 7 regarding membership, saying that members may also be approved on a temporary or permanent basis by a 2/3 vote of the credential delegates in convention, or the credential delegates may elect to waive the approval requirements for the duration of the convention by a 2/3 vote. The effect of this bylaw amendment would basically say that in addition to the state board approving new members by a majority vote, the convention could approve members by a 2/3 vote. The convention could also elect to waive the approval requirement entirely for the duration of the convention, meaning anybody who meets the other requirements of membership, namely being a Delaware resident who is a bylaws sustaining member of the National Party, or a registered libertarian according to the Commission of Elections lists in Delaware, would automatically be a member if that approval requirement was waived. So that is the amendment. If somebody would like to make a motion to adopt that amendment, they may do so at this time.
I'll make the motion.
There is a motion from Mary Pat McVeigh to adopt this as an amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second from Erica Nelson and from Nicole Shaw. Any discussion, questions, abuse for the chair? I saw Joe first, just barely. And Joe is deferring to Wendy. So Wendy, you first.
The question I had was, is there any provision or requirement to sign a statement which agrees with the bylaws and the procedures?
There is, and I should have clarified that as well, that the rest of Article 7 membership, any person who agrees to abide by the terms of these articles is a member of the LPD, provided they have met at least one of the following criteria for at least 60 days. So they do have to agree to abide by the bylaws.
Is this a verbal agreement or is it a signed agreement?
That's so. This will technically be handled by, first of all, the state board when they do the approval, or by the convention when they do the approval, or the convention when they do the waiving of the approval requirement. Or I'm sorry, at that point it's the credentials committee, which is the 3 county chairs would do the credentialing. And the way that has historically been handled is that they have to explicitly check a box on the sign-in sheet saying that they agree to abide by the bylaws of the LPD. So it's not.
As long as there's a record
Yeah.
of that.
Right.
With their name attached to it. So if in the future they decide to violate those things, there will be grounds for consideration for the removal.
Right, and that is a pre-existing requirement of membership, regardless of whether this amendment is passed or not. So waiving the approval requirement would not waive the requirement that they agree to abide by the bylaws.
Oh, okay, I'm happy.
Okay, Joe.
My question was kind of similar to that, just based on is this going to come back and allow certain people to say vote in credential of the convention that are not really where we had that issue with the last convention and we literally changed the rules for people and then that came back and bite us.
It certainly did.
So that's my concern, is this going to come back and bite us?
It's possible, but the fundamental issue that would have to be accomplished before it to bite us is that the people we have approved already, the approved members of the LPD, would have to, by a 2/3 vote, show up at the convention and elect to waive their approval requirements that anybody else who's registered or a national member residing in Delaware and has agreed to abide by the bylaws will be able to vote at that point as a credentialed delegate to the convention. And if they do that in the right circumstances, they could elect a new state board, or at least the 4 statewide officers, because the way we're kind of doing that now is that the counties will elect their own officers on their own time rather than devoting convention time to that. And there's no waiver included in this for the counties, by the way. I'm not sure if that answers your question. So it's possible, but it would
So the answer is technically yes.
yes, but it would
Could go back and bite us.
it would require the approved members to want it to bite us.
Well, they could.
You could.
That's my question.
You could. I will also add that the LNC in particular is particularly aggrieved by the fact that we're only allowing people who have been approved by the state board to be considered members. So this is kind of a sop to them to say there's another mechanism for becoming a voting member, is that the convention can do it, and or the convention can waive that approval requirement entirely for the purpose
And
of
this requires a 2/3 vote of the state board.
to adopt the amendment. Yes. Okay. We're going to stand at rest for a few minutes while the vice chair of Kent County and the Kent County representative takes the
And-
youngest lifetime member to the bathroom,
And the treasurer.
and the treasurer too, and the secretary looks like. Ideal time for it.
Well, you also forgot to mention the cutest libertarian.
Yes, the cutest libertarian, of course.
I'll have to refill. What do you need?
Actually, I promise we're going to order food when we're done.
Yeah, we'll order food, yeah. Uh-oh, you haven't eaten at all? Oh, no.
Oh, my father.
Father-in-law.
Yeah,
So he came to the convention,
Yeah.
or not the
Well,
convention, the
last
fundraiser.
yeah.
I'll
But
take
it looks
one
like
of those.
not a heart attack. All
Okay.
his enzymes look good, so we're just waiting for the cardiologist.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I seen the message.
Yeah, go
like,
ahead.
you're like in a hospital. I didn't understand
Yeah,
the short text. Or
Yeah.
okay.
that was fun times. He like calls and he's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm in Newark." He's
Right.
like, "Oh." He's like, "Well, I think my blood pressure cuff might be wrong." And he's like, "It's giving me a really high number." And I was like, "Well, did you try it on the other arm?" He's
Yeah.
like, "No, I didn't think about that."
Uh-huh.
Then I called him back. He's like, "Let me try that." And I called him back and he's like, "Yeah, this is the number." And I'm like, "Okay. So are you any other symptoms?"
Right.
He's like, "Well, I've had chest pain for the last 2 days."
Oh,
I'm like,
wow. That's
And I
hard.
was like, okay. He's like, but I took a nitro. And I was like, okay, so do you want me to take one? Or are you taking, because you can take 3 nitro in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I only took one. I didn't know I could take more. And I was like, yeah, take one, 5 minutes, take another, 5 minutes, take another, but no more than 3 in 15 minutes. And if after like that third one, like you're getting nothing, to go to the emergency room. But not a heart attack. So that's good, because he's already had one.
Right.
So,
I mean, having had a heart attack, I gotta say, like, knowing it's a heart attack seems like a good thing, as opposed to don't know what it is.
yeah. So I mean, he's got a bunch of other, like he's diabetes, and he doesn't, and he will, he's been having chest pains for 2 days, and,
Right.
and hasn't done anything about it. So, well, but mom's been having like mini strokes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I sent her to the,
You want our
I made her go to the ER a couple weeks ago, and yeah, I've been noticing like some issues, and then she sent me like a text message. I'm basically triaging her through text messages and going, you need to go to the emergency room. She's like, I don't really want to. Like, I don't want to.
Me
Like,
too.
I'm like, but you really need to. And I was like, how about let me run it by my boss, and if my boss says you need to go, then you'll go, right? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, give me a minute. And then I wait like 60 seconds, and I'm like, all right, my boss says you have to go. Okay. And then she's like mad because they kept her for like 24 hours for observation.
Okay, just so you know, this is being broadcast to YouTube, but
Wow, whatever. So, oh, it's officially not a heart attack. You don't really know what it is.
probably just YouTube it.
They told me it's gonna be happening there. Clint Eastwood,
Yeah.
If he had, say not, I mean, if he had arrested at home, 6% chance of
all right. I'm orders of the day here.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Orders of the day. So I'm gonna give us another few seconds if anybody wants any discussion, questions, abuse for the chair on the approval waiver amendment to the bylaws. All right, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. David Rogers, Secretary. David votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
John Mashurik votes aye. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative. Nicole?
I'll let John pass it out.
Yeah, I will pass on Nicole and we'll come back to her. Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Randy votes aye. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. Wendy votes aye. Jody Pasquale, Sussex Representative. Joe votes aye. Is Nicole Shaw back? Newcastle Representative.
Sorry, my button disappeared to unmute myself. Aye.
Okay, Nicole votes aye. And Will McVeigh, Delaware State Chair, votes aye. So that is, again, unanimous and adopted. Next item on the agenda relates to remote participation and proxies for the conventions. The amendment here specifically would add a new section to Article 8, credentialing. This was approved by the state board as a report to go out on December 12th. The amendment adds again to Article 8, credentialing, a Section 2. This report, referring to the Credentials Committee report, shall also include the names and numbers for qualified individuals who have not been approved for membership. This is relating to the other amendment, so that the people who are not approved but otherwise meet the requirements are on the credentials report. Members may also name and serve as proxies for other members as needed, provided written authorization is presented to the Credentials Committee and verified as authentic. Members serving as proxies shall also be specifically enumerated in the credentials report. The state board shall establish a process for credentialing remote delegates subject to the technical ability to support remote attendance at the convention venue. So this will basically allow people to serve as proxies for approved members at the convention, and will include people who are qualified members but not approved. Thank you. But not approved members in the credentials report, and people who are serving as proxies in the credentials report will be identified. Any questions, discussion, abuse for the chair on that? Wendy.
I run this through my what could possibly go wrong filter. And what is the possibility or feasibility of some undesirable types of using this and then using the proxy for
So my answer to that is that, first of all, we did allow remote participation at the convention in 2021. It was very sparsely used, particularly when, as the convention went on, several of the people who had been credentialed as remote delegates dropped off and were no longer present. But I think we did an okay job of verifying the identity of people and making sure that, you know, we weren't credentialing people online who were not actually eligible to be, members if they were in person, voting members in person. As far as the proxy issue is concerned, again, you have to be a credentialed, approved, unless the approval is waived, member, and all that information has to be on the initial credentials report. So before the approval requirement is waived, you know who is serving as a proxy for an approved member, you know who is present as an approved member, you know who's present as an unapproved qualified member. So like under this amendment, you would know all that information ahead of time, and the convention or the state board, at the very least, as the approver of the credentials committee report, the initial one, would be able to take all that into account and make a determination as appropriate. If that answers your question.
Is it possible for somebody to be approved but not necessarily, if I'm say, for instance, before requirements can be waived, and then later should they accept the proxy prior to the casting of the votes, but after the convention starts? Say one of their friends calls in and says, hey, could you carry my proxy? Or does their written statement or some factual statement have to, equivalent with the proxy
It-
prior to the convention?
It does say that the proxy authorization has to be written and presented to the Credentials Committee.
Okay, that answers my question.
John?
So I have two questions. One, can this be, is this still allowing for one person to be proxy for multiple people?
Technically, yes. That would be
So
possible,
you could technically have one person vote on behalf of 20 people. In theory.
in theory. Again, the Credentials Committee and the
I
State Board of
understand
Approving
all that,
would have to
just-
approve that, but yes, in theory.
As a technicality. And with that written approval, would that be, does that have to be written, or can it just be a simple text message? Like what,
That's up to the Credentials Committee to make the determination of what qualifies as written authorization.
can we just make it official as to what's gonna be authorization, rather than leave it up to people? There's a whole lot of leaving it up to people.
It depends on what amendment you would make to it, because the amendment has to be within the scope of the notification. So, you know, if we move to adopt this amendment, second it, and you want to make an amendment, depending on what the amendment is, I will have to make a determination as chair, and it can be appealed, et cetera, as to whether or not your amendment is within the scope of the notification. If you'd like to make a point of parliamentary inquiry as to whether or not a certain amendment would be in order as within the scope of the notification, I can answer that. What specific amendment would you make?
I'm thinking, I'm not, that was a question, and then you
Right.
gave me an answer, and now
Okay, fair enough.
I was prepared to rebuttal with, like the snap of a finger there.
All right. Well, we'll give you a little
I just
bit.
wanted an answer, and I got it. Now my brain's moving.
All right. Well, first of all, somebody needs to make the motion to adopt this bylaws amendment. We need to second it, and then I will give you a couple of minutes if you want to think about a possible amendment you would want to make. David, sure.
If someone goes, who's a member, is going to say they want to serve as a proxy for someone else, say one person, then do they get to vote twice?
Yes.
Okay.
The way this is written at the moment, yes.
That was why I asked.
So it is relevant, and just for comparison's sake, if someone names a proxy as a state board member, it does specifically say in the bylaws that if you're a state board member and you name a proxy for your state board vote, that your proxy cannot serve as both a proxy and a state board member independently. Like, you can't have two votes on the state board. So, like, if I were to say, oh, I'm not going to be able to come to the next state board meeting, I name Erica as my proxy, Erica's already on the state board. She does not get two votes on the state board. The way this is written for the convention is that if you show up and and 5 different people have named you the proxy, you get 6 votes altogether, because you get your own plus the 5 people who named you as proxy. The way this is written right now.
Would it been within the scope of notification to limit that?
It would, because, and I will explain my ruling on that, that the specific text in RONR about within the scope of notification is saying if you make a notification to create a dues requirement of $25, that it is within the scope of the notification to make it $10 instead, because it's less than what you notified. On the other hand, if you want to make it $30, it's beyond the scope of the notification because it's more than what you notified already. So since we do not allow proxies at all at this point, a limitation on proxies would be within the scope of the notification, subject to an appeal of the state board that I said that it's
Okay,
within the scope.
So, okay, I might make that amendment after we,
Did somebody made the motion already to adopt this, right?
okay, and second, okay.
I think so.
I make a motion that we amend this, that proxy is limited to 2 people.
So is that
Their vote and a
there?
proxy
Okay,
vote.
so
Or
proxy for as many as one other.
only one person can vote twice, either as the
Within that-
member
okay.
and proxy, or as 2 proxies.
Let me read this real quick and figure out whether and suggest a possible precise
That
amendment.
would help.
Yes, very much so.
So let
That was.
let me.
Imagine like a last second, like, hey, sorry, I'm in traffic, can't make it. Can you be my proxy? Text message, like that shouldn't. Like,
Yeah.
Let me suggest that the amendment you're moving is to add a sentence saying no member may serve as proxy for more than one other member.
Okay,
Voting members.
one other voting member.
One other
Yes.
voting member.
That is all right.
All right,
No voting member may serve as proxy for more than one other voting member.
okay,
So
yeah,
that way
that
they
sounds
can
good.
represent two
Yep,
people.
Okay,
Yep.
so that's the amendment that you're making, so they can represent themselves and one other person.
Yes.
Is there a second to that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, there's a second to that amendment. Let me real quick pull up the thing here so I can actually add that.
Do we have to vote on it before we actually?
We do it. Okay,
amend
so
it?
we do have to vote on the amendment, and then we will vote on the main motion.
Right, so you don't want to change it until we vote on the amendment?
Well, let me at least like write up the language so that I know what we're voting on here.
But yeah. Like I feel like if I just texted Bill 5 minutes before the meeting, he's like, yo, can't make it. You're my proxy.
I mean, Brandy did it.
That's not,
earlier.
yes, that's not.
Brandy did it earlier this morning. I mean, the only reason she made.
I mean, if I was on the credentials committee, my personal decision would be that that's in writing, and I know your phone number. So if you text me as a member of the credentials committee and say I want such and such to be my proxy, I say, okay, I know your phone number. This is most likely Joe, because like the difference between somebody who pretends to sign your signature versus somebody who sends a text message from your phone number or from your Facebook account and says this is who my proxy is. Frankly, I trust the text message or the Facebook message more than I trust somebody who might have forged your fucking signature, because I don't know what your signature looks like off the top of my head.
Well, you better get used to it.
Yeah. My point is that I'm like, despite being the state chair,
I get it.
I'm also the Kent County chair, so I'm on the credentials committee. If you send a text message and they say, here, this is a text message from Joe DiPasquale's Facebook account, or this is a text message from Joe DiPasquale's phone number, says that I should be their proxy, I'm going to be more likely to trust that than somebody that shows up and says, look, this is Joe DiPasquale's signature, I promise, cross my heart and hope.
I understand that. My point is, like, should there be a certain amount of time for notice given? That's my hang up. It's not even necessarily about the text message. It's about like
That's
it's
not,
about the text message like, hey, I know everything's starting in 2 minutes. Sorry, can't make
If
it.
you're in traffic or you have a car accident or a family emergency,
Yeah,
I can accept that.
I know.
Again, from your phone number or your Facebook page, I would be a little more. I don't think it's going to happen that often, but just to let you know.
okay, first off, just to clarify, we have an amendment to specifically add the sentence, no voting member may serve as proxy for more than one other voting member. So if you want to make an additional amendment that says that, the written authorization has to come so many days in advance, you can make that amendment. But the amendment that we're looking at right now is this one.
No, I don't like it, but I'm just gonna
Okay.
What's your phone number?
Well, in any case, we've got a motion, we've got a second on the amendment. Wendy, you had a point of information, I believe.
Point of information, who is currently on the credentialing committee?
So, Section 1 of Article 8, Credentialing, the Credentials Committee of the LPD Annual State Convention shall be composed of the county chairs of all 3 counties. So, Jimmy, me, John Mashurik.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Any further?
makes me feel better. Actually, I forgot about that part.
And also, by the way,
So like if some random number texts you and says, hey, this is Joe, you guys will be like, yeah,
yeah, I don't know what the fuck you are. Yeah, you can go out. Yeah, okay. And also, by the way, they shall be responsible for certifying that all voting members of the convention meet the criteria outlined in the Articles of Association for membership in the Libertarian Party of Delaware, and reporting the names and numbers to the convention members for approval by a quorum of the state board. So the national convention, just as an example, they take a credentials committee report from the credentials committee, and then the entire convention votes on that committee report, even though that entire convention has not actually been credentialed yet. Until it's kind of a circular argument there. Like you've got people who are on the credentials committee report voting on the credentials committee report with there's no authoritative source there, right? You get what I'm saying?
sounds like the answer.
The way we have it written, the state board votes on the initial credentials committee report because the state board is a known entity. We know who the state board is. We know that Joe DePasquale is on the state board. We know Jimmy Brittingham's on the state board. Mary Pat McVeigh, David Rogers, Brady Kirchhoff. Like, we know who the 10 people now, there's 10 people now, on the state board are. We know that they're qualified members. They vote on the first Credentials Committee report. Everybody on the Credentials Committee report doesn't. That's the default under R1R, but we didn't set it up that way because we want someone who's authoritative to say, yes, we know who you are, you get to vote on the initial Credentials Committee report. So that's another thing to keep in mind there. Like, not only is it the county chairs.
Well, I forgot about the county chair's part. As far as
Yeah, so like,
I thought it was just the state
but you
board.
say that assures you, like, that should assure, I hope that assures you. The Sussex, Kent, and Newcastle County chairs are the Credentials Committee report, or are the Credentials Committee, and they prepare the report. But in addition to that, the state board is the one that approves the initial Credentials Committee report. So if we see some jackass who shows up and says, oh, you know, here's a text from this guy, this phone number, who I promise you, cross my heart and hope to die, is an approved member of the LPD, and I'm proxy for him, so I get to vote for myself and this other. Like, okay, if the Credentials Committee report, or if the Credentials Committee rather, the three county chairs thinks that's bullshit, it doesn't get included in the Credentials Committee report. If the state board thinks that's bullshit, it doesn't get approved in the initial Credentials Committee report. So there's two different layers of, hold on a second, is this bullshit, before it actually becomes authoritative.
And so should the three of you all think it is, and then the rest of us doesn't?
Yes, if Jimmy,
For
myself,
some reason, I don't think that would ever happen.
if Jimmy, myself, and John fuck the dog, but you, Wendy, Erica, Brandy, Mary Pat, David, I think that's every
Nicole.
say yeah, and Nicole, sorry, and Nicole say, nah, you fuck the dog there. That's a majority that gets to overrule the Credentials Committee report.
I like it a little bit more.
Okay. So
Not in love, you know, like I wouldn't take it on another date, but.
Essentially, it's checks and balances.
it is.
It
Thank
is,
you, Nicole.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
checks and
good point,
balances, she
Nicole.
said. Okay, so the amendment is to add to the existing notification, which again I am ruling in scope because the initial language that we have does not allow proxies at all. So to limit proxies to, you can vote for yourself and one other person, one other voting member. The specific amendment, no voting member may serve as proxy for more than one other voting member. That's in scope of the notification, because before it was nothing. The notification is open-ended. The amendment is one other person. So that's in scope. So that's the amendment. Any other questions, discussion, abuse for the chair on the subject of the amendment? Hearing no discussion. Jimmy Brittingham. Jimmy votes aye on the amendment. Dave Rogers, secretary.
Aye.
David votes yes. Aye. Mary Pat, treasurer.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. John Mashurik, Newcastle representative.
Aye.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Aye.
John Mashurik votes aye. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle representative.
Aye.
Nicole Shaw votes aye. Erica Nelson, Kent representative.
Aye.
Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent representative. Wendy Jones, Sussex representative.
Aye.
Joe DePasquale, Sussex representative.
Aye.
And Will McVeigh, state chair. I'm going to vote no. So that vote is 9-1, but it's still adopted. Now, because the amendment has passed, the main motion becomes the amended amendment to the bylaws. That means the amendment to the bylaws is to add the whole paragraph that I just read with the sentence that Mary Pat added with her amendment. Any further discussion, amendments, abuse for the chair on that one? Mary Pat made the motion. I forget who seconded it. It'll be on the recording.
The initial?
The initial motion was
Okay.
yours. I think there were two people that seconded at the same
Yeah.
time.
And
Anyway,
Wendy and I both did, so I'll defer to Wendy.
Wendy has a question.
Point of information, do you have an explanation to your no vote?
My explanation for my no vote is that I don't necessarily think that it gets us anything by limiting proxies to one person. I think that if there's somebody in the party who said, let me rephrase that, if there's 10 people in the party, just to throw out a number, if there's 10 people in the party who say, I trust David, I think that he's going to represent me well at the convention. Right now, they're not all allowed under this amendment to make David their proxy. Those 10 people have to find 10 different people who are going to show up at the convention and say, I trust this person. And I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I mean, I would hope so. I would hope so. I would hope that if 10 people say, I can't come to the convention on March 12th, for example, by the way, for the internet, March 12th, Kent County Theater Guild. If 10 people say, I can't come to the convention on March 12th, I would hope that they can find 10 other trustworthy people so that they all have their own person to be proxy. On the off chance that they can't, though, personally, my opinion is they should be able to all say, we trust David. And if that means David votes 11 times, like, I get how that's confusing. I get how that's complicated to count from the perspective, okay, it is. It is. I get it. It is. But
What if he's, and I'm not saying you're not to be trusted, I'm just throwing out plain devil's
that was the
advocate.
example.
What
I
if he's
said
not to be
nothing.
trusted?
Sorry?
What if he's not to be trusted?
Maybe he's not. And that's a good point. There's an element of
I'm just, like I said, not that I don't trust
we
him,
all,
I'm
we,
just
all-
saying
we all
he's
trust
not.
David, but we all fucked up. Well, at this point, we'll flip the example to we all trust Will, but we fucked up because I can say I'm not trustworthy and no one will be insulted. We all trust Will, but they fucked up. Like there's a not putting your eggs all in one basket element to you're not all 10 of you allowed to trust Will.
Right, but I feel like David could defer if one person asked him and then a second person asked him. I feel like David could defer that second person. Listen, I'm already proxy for one person, but you can trust this person, and then that
Maybe.
person can reach out to that person.
Maybe,
and
but
it's like,
but they could say I don't know them though. I know you. Again, I don't think this is a huge deal. So like I voted no, but I don't think it's a huge deal.
My point is, if they're going to trust him, then they would trust his word to say
Maybe.
Mayor Cat can be your proxy.
Maybe.
That's my point. If they trust
Maybe.
him, then they trust that they'll take
Maybe.
his recommendation.
I was asked the question. That's my answer.
No, I'm just adding fuel.
Yeah, well,
Fuel to the fire.
I see it as if, with potential limitation, but I also see it as more redundant. Because, for instance, if Dave is already proxy for somebody else, and person two says, oh, Dave, can you proxy for me? And Dave says, well, no, we only got one person's proxy, but, you know, we have other people who, I mean, basically like, right, we're not gonna vote, you know,
Let me also present it to you this way. Let's say there's 20 people.
You and I, we're on the same page.
Sorry, what was that, Brandy? I didn't hear you.
No, it's just, yeah.
I didn't hear what you said. Did you? I'm sorry.
And I told her I might be on the same page. But, you know.
All right. In any case, let's say, for example, there's 20 people who are able to come to the convention, but there's 60 people who trust those 20 people to make a decision. We can have at most 20 people proxying through the 20 people who can show up. The other 40 people at this point are out in the cold. See what I'm saying?
I would argue that those people aren't committed then.
That's a fair point, but the accusation that's been made against us is that we've disenfranchised 2,161 people. I think those 2,161 people probably don't give that much of a fuck about the LPD as long as we don't embarrass them. So let's say, like, all right, as long as we're not going to embarrass you, like, we're going to vote for you we're going to vote on your behalf at convention. I don't think that they are obligated to show up. I think that they should be able to trust the people that they support as their proxy, not to embarrass them. Maybe they can't, but we're creating a limitation on the ratios here to say that 20 people can show up to the convention. They have time. They're not, previously obligated to, show up to their cousins, third sisters, other cousins' friends, 6th grade graduation. Fine. They can't come. Those 20 people who can come means that the maximum number of people who can be credentialed is 40 people. The other 40 who want to make somebody a proxy now can't. Again, I'm not saying it's a huge deal. I'm saying that just for the sake of this is my reasoning, that's why I voted no on the amendment. I'm still gonna support the amendment to the bylaws because nothing's better than something, or something's better than nothing. But that's why I opposed the amendment. Any other questions, discussion, abuse of the chair? Hearing none. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
David votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
Treasurer votes aye. John Mashurek, Newcastle Representative. John votes aye. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative. Nicole votes aye. Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative. Brandy votes aye. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. Wendy votes aye. Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
Joe votes aye. Will McVeigh, State Chair. I also vote aye. That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is affiliation language. This was posted by Joe DePasquale on October 11th, which also happened to be the exact same night that the Region 5 chairs voted to disqualify our vote for the alternate of Region 5. My ruling, by the way, even though it was put in the post that this will disaffiliate the LPD from the National Party, is that removing this language from the bylaws does not actually disaffiliate us from the LP, but rather enables us to do so without needing to amend the bylaws further. Because right now, the bylaws say under Article 3 that the Libertarian Party of Delaware is affiliated with the National LP, but reserves the right to act independently, blah, blah, blah. If we remove that language, that doesn't mean we immediately automatically disaffiliate from the National LP, but that we can then do so without needing to amend our bylaws first. That's my ruling as chair. If somebody would like to appeal that ruling, they can. If somebody would like to move the adoption of that amendment, they can. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's a point of information or point of parliamentary inquiry, but I know that we did all the stuff at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah. Well, the last meeting, the meeting of the LP at Delaware.
Right, previous meeting.
Yeah.
But didn't they, LNC already somewhat vote to disaffiliate in general?
So the vote that the LNC made
It's like, I know what we did.
on December
what we did,
5th,
but we didn't reverse what they did.
on December 5th specifically, because this is the vote that passed. Every other vote that they had didn't pass relating to us. The vote on December 5th was specifically found to be invalid by the Judicial Committee. And unlike the other things the Judicial Committee found and ruled, finding that a motion of the LNC is a violation of the bylaws is actually in their purview. So, my personal opinion, making a ruling as the chair of the LPD, is that the December 5th motion of the LNC has been invalidated. And, based on the actions taken by the LP's Delaware affiliate earlier today, the LPD is once again the Delaware affiliate of the LP. However, again, my personal opinion, and I apologize for inserting myself into the debate on a potential motion that may be introduced before the board, is that to make it easier for the LPD to explicitly and uncontroversially disaffiliate itself from the National Party is a level of flexibility that would be helpful to us, which is why, again, in particular, my ruling is that just by deleting the language that says we're affiliated with the National Party does not automatically disaffiliate us. It just means we don't need the 30 days notice. We don't need the 3 or the 2/3 vote. We need a majority vote of the state board at that point to say we're not part of this fucking mess anymore, because it's not in the bylaws at that point. We're still affiliated. It's just not in the bylaws. Does that answer your question? Okay. Is there a motion to remove that language from the bylaws? Not to disaffiliate, mind you, but to remove that language
Yeah,
from the
so
bylaws.
that's why I was confused, because you brought up my post, which was to disaffiliate us.
Well, it's technically your post is to remove Article 3, which is the language that says we're affiliated with the National Party but reserve the right to act independently, et cetera, et cetera. And your notification says this will disaffiliate us. My ruling is that removing Article 3 all by itself does not actually disaffiliate us. It just takes our affiliation out of the bylaws.
Now I'm more on board, or less confused.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the amendment that removes Article 3? Doesn't actually disaffiliate us, just removes the language from the bylaws that says we're affiliated. There's a motion from Dave Rogers, Secretary. Is there a second? Second from Mary Pat McVeigh and from Wendy Jones. Is there any discussion, comments, questions, abuse for the chair? I'm really waiting for some abuse for the chair here. I just got abused by the Kent County representative. I'm going to call that good enough. All right, hearing. I'm not trying to identity politics that. Like, I'm not trying to be like, that's an excuse. You can't be mean to me because anyway. All right, hearing no discussion, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
Jimmy Brittingham votes aye. David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
David Rogers votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
John votes aye. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative. I'm sorry, say that again.
Abstain.
Okay, Nicole abstains. Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Brandy Kirchville, Kent Representative. Brandy votes aye. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. Wendy votes aye. Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
Joe votes aye, and Will McVeigh, State Chair. I will also vote aye, so that is 9 out of 10, with 1 abstention votes aye. That is the necessary 2/3. The amendment passes. Again, we are not actually disaffiliating ourselves from the National Party. We're just removing the language that explicitly requires our affiliation from the bylaws. Next item of business, policy manual items. The first one being related to the IT assets. I will go ahead and read this out if you will forgive my indulgence, and I'm not going to read the URLs. But the following assets shall be utilized as the official IT assets of the Libertarian Party of Delaware under the management of the IT Director, Will McVeigh. The IT Director shall have discretion to manage these assets where no policies or directives have been issued by the State Board or any committees established to provide additional oversight. This will include the website or email at lpdelaware.org, the Facebook page, the Newcastle page, the Kent page, the Sussex page, the Facebook group, the Discord server ID, the email list, the Newcastle list, Kent list, Sussex list, Twitter account, Google and YouTube account, Newcastle Google account, Kent Google account, and Sussex Google account. Email addresses for each county at lpdelaware.org, meaning NCC at lpdelaware, Kent, etc., shall be provided to the county chairs and added as managers to the respective Google Group email lists. Emails associated with these mailboxes are the property of the LPD and will be regularly backed up by the IT Director, and the account credentials may be reset and transferred as needed by the IT Director to ensure compliance with these policies. The IT Director shall not examine these emails or release any of their content without explicit authorization from the State Board of the Libertarian Party of Delaware. The IT Director shall also have the authority to take any actions necessary to try and protect the social media accounts from adverse moderation actions by the social media service providers, subject to oversight by the State Board of the Libertarian Party of Delaware. And you can see all of the particular links, accounts, etc., that are actually associated with those various items that are the IT assets of the Libertarian Party of Delaware. And again, this is all already established as policy, but under the bylaws amendment that we just adopted relating to the policy manual, in 90 days, this is all vacated, no longer valid, unless it's explicitly adopted as a policy manual policy. So that's the policy. If anyone would like to make a motion to that effect, they may do so at this
I'll
time.
make a motion that we make that policy manual permanent.
Okay. There's a motion from Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer. Is there a second? Second from Wendy
What was the
Jones.
motion for?
The motion is for the IT assets of the Libertarian Party of Delaware relating to the website, email, Facebook page, county pages, Discord server, group, email lists, YouTube accounts, Google accounts, etc.
It becomes,
that this be adopted as policy because, again, this is already policy as it stands, but it's vacated in 90 days because of the bylaws amendment we passed relating to pre-existing policies.
Unless we make it permanent.
Unless we adopt it as a permanent addition. Does that answer your question, Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. Joe?
Would it be beneficial to have everybody on the state board have an LPW email address server? Rather than just 3 people?
Perhaps. However,
I'm just
I'll never
throwing,
check
I'm
it
not
either.
even, I'm not
Okay,
even 100%.
okay. First
I'm
of
not even 100% behind it, I'm just
all right.
throwing it out.
Let me answer your question. First of all, maybe. Second of all, in addition to the 3 county chairs, and maybe this should be an amendment to the policy, but we also have the chair and the treasurer have an account because the treasurer has information through the state, the CFRS system, and the chair obviously has additional responsibilities. But there are actually 5, and specifically, right now we are using Zoho as our mail server provider, and we have an account that allows for 5 addresses, which means chair, treasurer, Newcastle, Kent, Sussex, at the price that we're paying. And we've approved that expenditure for in perpetuity. If we want more, it's going to cost more.
Okay, I see, I didn't realize that.
That's
I thought email addresses
That's fine.
were free, they should be.
that's okay. So also, just by the way, the treasurer account has marypat.mcveigh@lpdelaware.org and treasurer.lpdelaware.org as alias, so they're the same mailbox. And personally, myself, I have will.mcveigh@lpdelaware. I have IT admin at lp.lpdelaware. I have chair at lpdelaware. So like we can create aliases, but they're not separate mailboxes. So it's a valid question, and if we get the funds at some point to do it in the future, I'm in complete support of it. However, right now, considering our relatively limited funding situation, my suggestion is that we hold off on the 5 for now.
Like I said, it was just it was more of a,
Cool.
let's throw it out there and just as a question, I don't know what's going on. But I think that's it.
Cool. All right. Any other questions? Discussion? Abuse for the chair. I just got hit by the Kent representative, so there's some abuse. All right. Hearing no discussion, I will call a roll. Jimmy Brittingham, Vice Chair.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
David votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
Mary Pat votes aye. John Mashurik, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
John votes aye. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Aye.
Nicole votes aye. Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Aye in spite of the abuse. Brandy Kercheval, Kent Representative. Brandy votes aye. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. Wendy votes aye. Joe DePasquale, Sussex Representative.
Aye.
And Will McVeigh, State Chair, also votes aye. That passes. Just as a reminder, in case I forgot to mention it earlier, since that does affect the counties, that does require a 2/3 vote to overrule any existing county policies that may exist. But it did get that required 2/3 vote, so it is applied anyway. Next item on the agenda is custody of assets. This is also a policy manual amendment. All LPD bank accounts shall be held by Mary Pat McVeigh. The CRFRS account with the state of Delaware shall be held by Mary Pat McVeigh. The IT assets, including but not limited to the website and social media accounts of all 3 counties, as well as the Discord server, Google account, and all other similar assets shall be held by Will McVeigh. The P.O. Box keys shall be held by Mary Pat McVeigh and Tim Spong. Outreach items, including but not limited to banners, stickers, pamphlets, etc., shall be held by John Mashurik, Will McVeigh, and Jimmy Brittingham, and exchanged as needed to conduct outreach events in each county. I will add as a piece of information that Tim Spong has held the P.O. Box keys for several years and has been diligent in letting us know when something's in them. But again, this is existing policy as it existed prior to the inclusion of the policy manual, etc. So all of this is no longer valid, no longer in force 90 days after the adoption of the policy manual amendment. So in order to make it policy, it has to be explicitly adopted by the state board into the policy manual. If someone would like to make a motion to that effect, they would be welcome to do so at this time. There's a motion from Joe DePasquale. Is there a second? Second from Wendy Jones. Any discussion, questions, abuse for the chair? He didn't actually hit me that time. Hearing none, I will call the roll. Jimmy Brittingham.
Aye.
Vice Chair votes aye. David Rogers. Secretary votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh. Treasurer votes aye. John Mashurik.
Aye.
Newcastle Representative votes aye. Nicole Shaw. I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Aye.
Aye. Newcastle Representative votes aye. Erica Nelson.
Aye.
Kent Representative votes aye. Brandy Kercheval. Kent Representative votes aye. Wendy Jones. Sussex Representative votes aye. Joe DePasquale. Sussex Representative votes aye. Will McVeigh. Aye. State Chair votes aye. That is unanimous. That meets the 2/3 threshold required to overrule county policies as they exist. Excuse me, that is passed. That is everything that is actually on our agenda. If anyone has any other business, speak now or forever, or at least until the next meeting. Hold your peace. And I'm going to go ahead and just count to 5 again, just because this is the last chance you'll get. Okay. Wendy is recognized.
The card, for second question, and I would like to make a motion that everybody add their name to it, and thanks to Bradford.
That actually reminds me, we need to pick somebody for the Bill Morris Award
Oh, that's right.
at the convention. I have no idea who you're.
5 more minutes.
Sorry, we appreciate your flexibility. All right. So I'm gonna rule the motion there, if there is such a thing, out of order, just because if you want to pass that around, by all means, pass that around. However, if somebody would like to make a motion for the Bill Morris Award, we should really do that, even though it's not on the agenda. So I'm gonna wait until somebody wants to make a motion to select somebody for the Bill Morris
Can you
Award.
just re-explain, because I'm somewhat new here, what the Bill Morris Award exactly is?
So Bill Morris founded the LPD in 1975 and affiliated the LPD with the National Party, and was generally a very sweet and awesome and libertarian old man when I met him. Wise and experienced, yes. So basically, it's become tradition since 2013, 2014.
Never died about that.
Within a year or so of him dying, that we pick somebody among the state parties, participants, activists, whatever, to recognize with the Bill Morris Award for their unique and special contributions to the state party.
And some of the people that have gotten it is Will, Scott Guesty, Dale,
Brad,
Jimmy's got it, Brad got it. Did Sean get it?
I don't think he did. I don't know if Nadine did or not. I don't think Nadine got it. We've also created a Lifetime Achievement Award, by the way, that Tom Offner is so far the only recipient of, I think.
Post.
And he unfortunately was only able to receive it posthumously. No, Bob Wilson got it too.
That's right.
Bob Wilson did get it too, and that's obviously not necessarily a year-to-year thing, but an overall over the course of their lifetime. And we try to get it in before it's too late, but unfortunately sometimes it is too late. But it has become traditional that we at least give out the Bill Morris Award annually at the convention. The Lifetime Achievement Award is not annual necessarily, but
I wouldn't mind. If Nadine hasn't gotten it, yes, I'd like to nominate Nadine.
for
The Bill Morris Award.
sorry, I got the Bill Morris Award
2 years ago?
4 years ago now for my fight against the Angry Beavers.
In 2018, I got it the year before, 2017.
I don't remember ever getting it from Nadine Frost, but I may be wrong.
Not the last state convention, but the one before that.
In 2020, if I remember correctly, you ordered the plaque. Do you
I
remember?
know, I can't remember. I have to go back and look through that.
I want to say it was Brad. Was it Brad?
Brad got it.
I know Brad has received it. I know Scott has received it. I know I've received. I know you've received
And I know
it.
Dale
I know
received
Dale
it.
has received it. Dale fucking earned it last year.
He
Dale earned it hard because Dale reached out to every single person who even said they were running for president for the LP nomination, and every single person who said they were running for any kind of LNC position in 2021. when everything was remote, and made sure that the people who were elected as delegates and alternates all got a chance to get on a Zoom meeting with them. So Dale definitely earned it.
Definitely.
But okay, are you making a motion for Nadine to get the lifetime?
If, I would do Bill Morris just because of all she's done, and it could be lifetime, I don't care, which one way or the other.
Well, you got to make a motion one way or the other.
I was gonna do Bill Morris, but somebody said they thought she already got it.
I don't think that she has.
I don't really know. I have to go back.
I don't think she's gotten Bill Morris Award. So that's my response to what I'm interpreting as a point of information.
I don't think she's gotten lifetime. think
I know
somebody had the-
we've only given the lifetime award to Tom Uffner and Bob Wilson. It must have been Bill Morris then.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay, I would, can you find out?
We can do that all online if we need to.
To her, I nominate her, and then if she's gotten it, I don't have an idea.
Does it have to be somebody only get it once?
No. All right. So, are you actually making a motion now, or are you saying?
I'm making a motion to nominate Nadine unless she's already gotten it, and we could do it again, or unless somebody has another
Unless
idea.
you, okay, I'm gonna rule that as something that we're gonna put off then to online when we find out if she's actually already gotten
If you
it.
could find out.
Based on the verbiage of your motion, since it's unless she's already
Right,
gotten it,
right.
we will move that online when we find out whether or not she's already gotten
All
it.
right, so, okay, because we've still got, well, it doesn't take long to get it, so I could easily get it off of the 12th. It usually takes less than a week for me to get it.
All right. Does anyone else want to make a nomination for that? Anyone else want to make any other motions? Or failing all that, and it's always in order anyway, but someone can make a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to adjourn. I must call the roll because that's super duper important.
Oh, one thing, I didn't give the treasurer's
You don't-
report. No, I can't do it now.
It wasn't on the agenda. There is a motion to adjourn. If you want to tell us all how much money we have once we've adjourned, you're allowed to do
Okay,
that.
all right.
Or we can, vote down the motion to adjourn and make a treasurer's report. Jimmy Birmingham, Vice Chair.
What's the motion
To adjourn.
Aye.
Jimmy votes aye. David Rogers, Secretary.
Aye.
David votes aye. Mary Pat McVeigh, Treasurer.
Aye.
Treasurer votes aye. John Mashurek, Newcastle Representative.
Okay.
John votes nay. Nicole Shaw, Newcastle Representative.
Yeah, aye.
Nicole votes aye. Erica Nelson, Kent Representative.
Aye.
Erica votes aye. Brandy Kirchhoff, Kent Representative. Brandy votes aye. Wendy Jones, Sussex Representative. Wendy votes aye. Jody Pasquale, Sussex Representative.
Yes, we'll vote to adjourn.
I love it. Jody Pasquale votes oh bother. And Will McVeigh, State Chair of the LPD. I'm going to vote nay too because I just love you guys too much to adjourn this, but it passes anyway. 8-2 with no abstentions. We are adjourned at 2:44 on February 19th,
Okay, if you want to
2022.
hear the treasurer's
I love you all.
report,
Thank you.
Before you turn that off, PayPal, we have $38.84. The savings account, the checking account, we have $970.20, so that's a total of $1,009.04. And in the savings, which is the sequestered account, there's still $8,917.59.
Wait, we have over $1,000 still? Like real
Almost.
actual
Yeah,
excess?
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we got donations in response to our letter,
Fantastic.
and I have not checked the mailbox in the last couple of days.